Now to 24/24 every night until the election. We bring you the latest 2024 campaign news in the last 24 hours with a sneak peek ahead to the next 24 hours. First up, yesterday, unless you live in a cave and you are living off the grid, you know that former President Donald Trump was indicted for a third time. So now the political juggling by his 2024 Republican opponents. What are they saying about the indictment? Well, best described as a split reaction. Some rivals taking Trump's side and others doing the opposite. Here are just a few reactions. Let's start off with one of Trump's top competitors, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who took to Twitter to tweet in part, "As president, I will end the weaponization of government, replacing the FBI director, and ensure a single standard of justice for all Americans. While I've seen reports, I've not read the indictment. I do, though, believe we need to enact reforms so that Americans have the right to remove cases from Washington, D.C. to their home districts. Washington, D.C. is a swamp, and it's unfair to have to stand trial before a jury that is reflective of the swamp mentality." And entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, also taking to Twitter, he posted this video message.
The 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, has yet again been indicted by the Biden DOJ, a political party in power that is now repeatedly using police force to indict and arrest and potentially eliminate its political opponents from competition. The allegations in this indictment fall flat. It is wrong and incorrect and inaccurate to place blame for what happened on January 6th at the feet of Donald Trump.
Former Vice President Mike Pence also taking to Twitter, but with a different tune. He tweeted, "Today's indictment serves as an important reminder anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be President of the United States." Former Texas Congressman Will Hurd also took a jab at Trump, saying, "Let me be crystal clear. Trump's presidential bid is driven by an attempt to stay out of prison and scam his supporters into footing his legal bills. Furthermore, his denial of the 2020 election results and actions on January 6 show he is unfit for office." As you can see, Trump Republican political opponents are divided about his most recent indictment. Next up, Vice President Kamala Harris. Today, the Vice President RSVP'd to Florida Governor DeSantis' invitation to take a return trip down to his state of Florida. For a little background, on Monday, DeSantis fired off an invitation to Harris. He invited her to his state of Florida to discuss Florida's new school curriculum that includes the history of slavery in the United States. The invitation read in part, "In Florida, we are unafraid to have an open and honest dialogue about the issues, and you clearly have no trouble ducking down to Florida on short notice. So given your grave concern, which I must assume is sincere, about what you think our standards say, I'm officially inviting you back down to Florida to discuss our African-American history standards." This saucy invitation came almost 2 weeks after the Florida Department of Education approved a new curriculum for their schools. Then, 2 days after the curriculum approval, Vice President Harris made a surprise trip to Jacksonville, Florida. While in Jacksonville, she claimed this about Florida's new school curriculum.
"And while they do this, check it out. They push forward revisionist history. Just yesterday in the state of Florida, they decided middle school students will be taught that enslaved people benefited from slavery. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not stand for it."
The curriculum that Harris is referring to reads in part, quote, "Instruction includes how slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit." So how did the Vice President RSVP to the Florida governor today? In short, she said no. Harris took to Twitter. "There is no roundtable, no lecture, no invitation we will accept to debate an undeniable fact there were no redeeming qualities of slavery." And lastly, this Friday, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott is set to visit Yuma, Arizona. Scott will visit the border and hold a roundtable with community leaders. This will be the first trip that Scott has taken to the border as a 2024 presidential candidate. His campaign team says he will talk about his plan to eliminate illegal immigration and take on cartels. The visit comes as border arrests skyrocketed to more than 130,000 in the month of July. RealClearPolitics president and co-founder Tom Bevan joins me. Nice to see you again, Tom. Tell me, how is Vice President Kamala Harris doing as an asset to the Democratic ticket?
Well, she's not much of one. According to the data, I mean, her approval ratings and her favorability ratings are low, in some cases the lowest of any vice president in modern times. So she has, I think, struggled. I mean, Democrats like her, obviously. They like the Biden administration, but with independent voters and obviously with Republican voters, she has her approval ratings are extremely low. And so I don't, in that sense, I don't think she's an asset in a sort of general election setting.
All right, about 13 or 14 candidates have lost count who are running for the presidential nomination. And I was thinking to myself, with the exception of perhaps Governor Chris Christie's team and Congressman her team, is that I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall as they discussed strategy last night as how to navigate this new indictment and what to say, how to be, team player in the party, yet, I don't know, what do you think about how they all navigated this?
Well, as you mentioned, Ramaswamy has been a strong supporter of Donald Trump the entire time and went so far as to say he would pardon the 45th president if he is convicted of these crimes, if Ramaswamy becomes president. As you mentioned, the other folks, Pence, we know where he stands, Christie, et cetera. I mean, DeSantis is the one who's had the real, the biggest trouble trying to thread that needle and be supportive of Trump. And you saw that again in his statement. Didn't really mention him. He was talking about reforming the judicial system. He's trying to thread that needle, and it hasn't really worked for him up to this point. So, he's getting mixed reviews on his statement. Obviously, Trump supporters. And this is the thing, Greta. He's trying to win over people who are supportive of Donald Trump. And he can't really do that if he's not explicitly, overtly supportive of the 45th president.
Vivek Ramaswamy is, I don't know if the word's surging, but he is certainly getting more attention. His numbers have come up in the poll. I think he says that he's third, which of course he's way down third from President Trump, but nonetheless he's third. I think he's above Christie and a couple others whose names we know. What's his strategy?
So his strategy, and I was at the Lincoln dinner in Iowa last week where all the candidates spoke. Ramaswamy was very well received by Iowa voters there. And his message is he has the most interesting and unique message. First of all, again, very supportive of Donald Trump, but also says, look, I'm the youngest person in this race. If you want to know why folks of my generation, they're longing for meaning, they've lost meaning in their lives, they've lost faith, and it's been replaced. That vacuum has been filled by corrupt ideologies like wokeism and transgenderism, et cetera. And he says we need to give these people a reason to believe again. He talks about this being a 1776 moment. He says anyone who tells you that they're going to reform these agencies of government, that's a false promise. He says, I'm not for reform, I'm for revolution. So it's a pretty stark message when you think about it in those terms. He's kind of the Bernie Sanders of the right in terms of wanting to go further than almost anybody on that stage. But again, very well received. He's very charismatic and well spoken, and his message is resonating with that part of the base that is really, really upset with what's gone on in Washington.
When we look at President Biden, we have no idea what's going to unravel this investigation, whether there's something there or not. But depending on if you talk to the Republicans, there's a lot there. You talk to the Democrats, there's nothing there. Nonetheless, he does have his son to contend with. And how much of a political liability is that? Or are people going to say, look, that's the president's son? And he's got drug and alcohol problems, or is this going to be something that hangs around the president's neck?
I think it is a story that's not really going away because of the things that have come out, and certainly if Republicans press forward with some sort of impeachment inquiry, it will be in the headlines for weeks and months to come. It is one of those things. Democrats have been trying to hold the line and say there's nothing there. This is just a case of a father loving his son, et cetera. That is a tougher and tougher line to hold the more we learn about the fact that, Biden was on the phone with Hunter while his business associates were present. Devin Archer just gave an interview to Tucker Carlson where he said that he was actually had been excited about Hunter Biden's new business venture that he had started with Devin Archer, giving basically testimony that Biden has lied to the American public, that he'd never spoken to his son, not a single time, about his business dealings. And so to the extent it is proven that Biden had lied, and to the extent that is proven, there's data that shows majorities of Americans, if it's proven that Biden was involved in some sort of bribery scheme or family enrichment of some kind, that is going to be a real political problem for him.
Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics, great place to go and learn about everything that's going on in all these races, even across the states, too. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Greta.